Tonight, southeast Queensland thrown into a snap lockdown, authorities desperate to control the latest Delta outbreak. New South Wales records another 210 cases as a high-visibility police operation prevents a second anti-lockdown protest in Sydney. Ash Barty and John Peers score bronze in the tennis mixed doubles after Novak Djokovic pulls out. And meet the 100-year-old musician marching to the beat of his own drum. Good evening and welcome to ABC News. I'm Mariam Saab. Southeast Queensland is tonight in its strictest lockdown since the pandemic began, as the state records another 6 new local cases of COVID-19. It's prompted health authorities to impose restrictions that Queenslanders haven't seen before in an effort to contain the highly infectious Delta variant before it gets out of control. 2 Brisbane schools linked to the outbreak are closed, with thousands of students there forced to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Shops packing up, crowds thinning out. As the 4 p.m. deadline approached, Brisbane's bustling streets fell silent and the southeast descended into another lockdown.
This will be the strictest lockdown that we have had.
The tough measures sparked by 6 new local cases of the Delta variant today, linked to the high school student in Brisbane's inner west. Until 4 p.m. Tuesday, 11 local government areas in the southeast are locked down. There's only 4 reasons you can leave your home: for essential work, school or childcare, for medical treatment, including getting a COVID test or vaccine, or to care for a vulnerable person, to exercise, which is allowed with 1 person from outside your household, or to get groceries. But both shopping and exercise must be done within 10 kilometres of your home.
That is a stricter geographic movement restriction than we've had in the recent lockdowns.
Schools will be closed during the lockdown except to children of essential workers. High school students and teachers must wear masks. Visitors to your home are not allowed.
This is one of the most restrictive lockdowns we've had since the start of the pandemic, which makes sense because this is the most infectious variant we've had since the start of the pandemic.
Weddings and funerals are capped to 10 people. Cafes and restaurants are back to takeaway only.
We're sort of getting used to it, unfortunately. The biggest problem, obviously, is casual staff and permanent part-time staff that haven't got their hours banked up. There's no money.
This lockdown has come not long after the last one, and that's why for this lockdown we will seek to have a compensation package in place.
The federal government has now declared southeast Queensland a hotspot, meaning Commonwealth support will be available.
We will reprioritise vaccine supplies if required. Access to COVID-19 disaster payments if eligibility criteria are met.
Health authorities hope the hard and fast 3-day lockdown will be able to contain the outbreak, but admit contact tracers now have an enormous job ahead of them. A new outbreak, but the same message.
Stay at home. That's the safest place for everyone to be until we can sort this out.
She's hoping it will only take 3 days to do that. Ashley Stevenson, ABC News, Brisbane.
Queensland's lockdown has thrown our professional sporting leagues into chaos as officials now work overtime to find a solution. AFL clubs fled the state this afternoon, while NRL matches to be played in Brisbane and Rockhampton have been postponed.
The NRL's unofficial home for the last month resembled a ghost town. Thousands were due to flock to Lang Park for tonight's doubleheader.
There are NRL games due to be played this afternoon and tonight. Will they go ahead?
No.
In Rockhampton, Brown Park was deserted at the time it should have been hosting its first ever NRL match between the Dragons and Rabbitohs.
We were just about to get on the bus at our team hotel when our general manager pulled us up and said the game or did know then the game wasn't going to be going ahead.
The Rabbitohs had arrived in the beef capital but were soon sent back to Brisbane. By then, the NRL had confirmed all 3 of today's matches were off. In a statement, they said they're continuing discussions with the Queensland government to possibly play matches tomorrow.
There's been a few things being thrown around, playing it Monday night or maybe even going to Canberra has been suggested.
In the meantime, all players have returned to level 4 biosecurity protocols in their hotels.
There will be no football matches, so no community sport, no professional sport, nothing for the next 3 days.
At Noosa, families of Olympic swimmers headed home hours after watching their loved ones win more medals for Australia.
Campaign done.
There's still another day of swimming to go in Tokyo.
A shot at goal.
Reserve AFL teams on the Gold Coast heeded health advice immediately.
Breaking news here from Gold Coast Suns senior coach Stuart Dew. Due to COVID, this game has officially been cancelled.
Just days ago, outbreaks across the country had forced the AFL to move several matches here to Queensland this weekend, including one to be played between the Bombers and Swans tonight here at the Gabba. By 4 o'clock, all teams had fled the state just in time. The AFL confirming late this afternoon all 3 games will instead be played in Melbourne tomorrow. And the Super Netball season will remain in Queensland despite matches due to be played on Monday and Tuesday. Jessica Stewart, ABC News, Brisbane.
The New South Wales COVID-19 Delta outbreak has passed 3,000 cases. A man in his 60s has died, taking the toll of this outbreak to 14 and the state's overall fatality count to 70. 210 new local infections were recorded from almost 106,000 tests. Just a third of these people were isolating while infectious. 21 were out and about in the community, and worryingly, the isolation status of more than half of today's cases remains unknown. And a sea of blue has flooded Sydney CBD as authorities prepared for another anti-lockdown protest. Police questioned commuters. They shut down train stations, roadblocks were set up, even taxis were banned, quashing any chance for protesters to rally.
A ring of steel around the city, Sydney awash with blue. High in the sky, on foot, horseback and push bike.
We don't apologise for today's operation. We've made it very, very clear that people should not go into the city.
Fearing the return of anti-lockdown protesters, police were everywhere.
Given that we know what coronavirus can do, it's pretty outrageous to be having a protest at this moment in time.
We will not get over this virus unless people do the right thing.
The city centre was silent, but drivers trying to get in were caught in traffic mayhem. From east to west, north to south, those without good reason were turned around.
OK, yeah, they've got to make sure people are not going to protest, but at the end of the day, people like me are affected because I have to go to work.
Frustrating because we're actually going to get vaccinated.
There was a show of force at major train stations. Commuters were questioned, some stations were even shut down, leaving platforms deserted.
You can see the police are everywhere, Hyde Park's full, like Town Hall. You can't, wherever you look, there's a police officer.
Every corner was covered, even the dogs were called in.
Absolutely necessary and I'm all for it.
Go home, stay home and do the right thing, save lives.
This is where protesters hope to gather in large numbers, but there's not one in sight, and that's exactly how police want to keep it. Officers are letting people walk through Hyde Park, but they're stopping groups of people as a precaution.
We want freedom!
This was Victoria Park a week ago.
No more lockdowns!
Today, the only disturbance...
I just want this lockdown to be over, so I'm going to follow the rules.
At least 85 protesters have been charged and more than 300 fined since last Saturday. Health officials fear very few of the thousands who attended have been tested.
I am concerned about that. Quite simply, those people who went to the demonstration should get tested.
Today's operation ended peacefully, and it's one police hope they don't have to repeat. Mark Reddy, ABC News, Sydney.
Well, as New South Wales struggles with its COVID lockdown, the country with the world's strictest measures is rushing to contain its own Delta outbreak. China has conducted more than 9 million tests over the past week in just one city, after dozens of cases of the Delta strain were detected. The outbreak has now spread to 6 provinces, but the government is confident it has the measures to tame Delta within weeks. China correspondent Bill Birtles reports.
This is what a Chinese lockdown looks like. Workers in the eastern city of Nanjing prepare food deliveries for tens of thousands of residents locked inside housing compounds. And for those outside the hotspots, mandatory COVID testing for an entire city of 9 million. It's a level of mobilisation and compliance unimaginable in Australia.
Trying to compare any other society, be it Australia, the UK, the US, with China, it's actually very difficult. Here, people comply because they see it as being supportive of the community.
Australian businessman Michael Eagleton lives in Shenzhen, where a nearby outbreak in May was contained within weeks, partly because everyone carries a digital health code.
They are very effective. That's the QR code within WeChat. And I don't know if you can see that, but I've recently had my first vaccination. So there is a gold square around the QR code now that indicates that I've had a vaccination. I've been vaccinated.
Unlike the check-in system used in Australia, China's health code checks the user, with location tracking and other linked data telling staff at shops, workplaces, schools and transport hubs if a person has been near a hotspot. That was the promise of Australia's ineffective COVID-Safe app. Officials say the experience in China is proof it works.
We've always been able to find cases early and take strong measures to quickly stop the spread. I believe we can do it again with this outbreak in Nanjing.
Like Australia, Chinese authorities have tried to suppress the virus to zero until enough people are vaccinated. While Sydney is struggling, the coming weeks will show whether the Delta strain has met its match in China. Bill Birtles, ABC News.
Well, it's time now for sport with Daniel Garb and the day's Tokyo Olympics highlights. Daniel, let's start with the big one, the women's 100-metre final. It's just been completed. How did it go?
One of the glamour races of the Olympics has finished 1, 2, 3 to Jamaica. Their dominance in this event, male and female, continues. It was a win for Elaine Thompson-Herah in an Olympic record run of 10.61. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, her great rival, finished second. Shakira Jackson finished third. She won the double at Rio, Elaine Thompson-Herah, and now she has won gold in the 100 metres at Tokyo to go with it. So she's eyeing off a very rare double in back-to-back Olympics. It was an awesome race. Jamaica 1, 2, 3. They are something else in the 100 metres.
Let's stay on the track and turn to Rowan Browning. He's been burning it up for Australia.
Australia has a new sprint sensation, that is for sure. What an incredible moment this was. He was up against Johan Blake in his heat, who of course has won a silver medal and a bronze medal in the last 2 Olympic Games in the 100 metres, and he won his heat, Rowan Browning, in a time of 10.1, a new PB, the fastest ever run by an Australian in the 100 metres at an Olympic Games, the second fastest Australian time ever. It was awesome watching him from the outside lane beat the field in his heat to move through to the semi-finals, and he now looms as a decent chance to make the finals and be the first Australian to make the final of the 100 metres at an Olympics since Heck Hogan at the 1956 Melbourne Games. What a story that would be if Rowan Browning can pull it off.
An incredible result there for Rowan. And what about our big hope in the discus, Matt Denny? How did he finish up?
Yeah, the Toowoomba lad, the 26-year-old who was looking like a really good chance all the way through the discus final, actually threw a PB of 67.02, but that was only good enough for fourth. He was 5 centimetres off a bronze medal, can you believe it? But Matt Denny, still a wonderful Olympic Games from him. He actually won the gold medal in the hammer throw at the Commonwealth Games, has now moved over, of course, to the discus and finished fourth by throwing a PB. So a fantastic effort by Matt Denny, a shame that he couldn't cap it off with a medal.
And there was a surprise result in the mixed doubles for Wimbledon champ Ash Barty and John Peers.
Yeah, a surprise because Ash, of course, was bundled out of the singles in the opening round, which in what has been an incredible Olympic Games for Australia is one of our big disappointments so far. She couldn't quite get through in the doubles either for a medal, but she's been able to clinch one in the mixed doubles with John Peers. It was Novak Djokovic and Stojanovic who they were up against from Serbia. Djokovic actually withdrew with the shoulder injury. That was after he lost his bronze medal match in the singles and was seen throwing his racket around the court. So hasn't been a happy day for Novak Djokovic, that is for sure. A shoulder injury, the reason why Australia has been able to win a bronze medal in the mixed doubles, the first time they've medalled in that event. And Ash Barty, a 2-time Grand Slam champion, of course, the French Open and Wimbledon a month ago, now has an Olympic medal to go with it.
Every single minute, and as John said, you see the raw emotion that comes out of a lot of the athletes, not just in tennis but across all disciplines and all codes, and this is the pinnacle of sport for a lot of things. And I think for Johnny and I to be able to share this and be able to call ourselves bronze medalists is really, really cool.
And what about the Boomers, Daniel? Our basketball giants proved too good for Germany.
A perfect record for the Boomers in the group stage. 89-76 winners over Germany tonight. Paddy Mills, what a superstar he is, 24 points for him. And Jock Londale, 18 points. In the absence of big Aaron Baines, who is out of the tournament with a neck injury, Londale stood up in the paint in a big way. That's important for the Boomers. We'll wait to see who they play in the quarterfinal stage. It could be the Czech Republic or Slovenia, maybe even Team USA. But the big quest for the Boomers is to finally win an Olympic medal. It is something that has eluded them throughout their history in the Olympic Games. This has been viewed as their big chance. They are through to the quarters with a perfect record. Hopefully this time around they can finally win that medal.
Let's hope they come through. Thank you, Daniel Garb, there with the latest from the Tokyo Olympics. With absolutely no inkling that there might be the only NRL games played this weekend, the New Zealand Warriors and Brisbane Broncos recorded wins last night that they hope will trigger a strong finish to the season. But on the other side of the coin, the frustration only continues for the West Tigers and North Queensland Cowboys.
The Queensland Derby remains a marquee match for the Broncos and the Cowboys wherever the teams happen to sit on the table. But it was Brisbane who jumped out to the early lead.
He does it himself!
From there, the two teams went try for try. Twice the Cowboys narrowed the margin and both times the Broncos cancelled it out. After the break, Brisbane edged further ahead, but Kyle Felt kept the North Queenslanders within reach.
What a number he does on his man there.
But a disallowed try 5 minutes later broke their back. Brisbane with a field goal and a late try to secure the 19-point win. There was no hiding the disappointment in the North Queensland camp, while for Brisbane, it's hoped the win is the first step on their rebuild and redemption.
They made more tough decisions than us by a mile, and I thought we were pretty well lucky to score a couple of tries before half-time. That's the plan that we have in place, is to try and get something out of the next 5 games, and I believe we can, certainly with the group that we have. So it was a nice win tonight and very enjoyable.
In the earlier game, the New Zealand Warriors overcame West Tigers' 10-0 half-time lead within the first 10 minutes of the second half, and they jumped out by a further 8 points with a play that pretty much sums up the West Tigers season.
The ball cleared the 10.
The Tigers did close the gap to 2 through Adam Dewey and then had a late try disallowed. The Warriors holding on despite West Tigers launching multiple 2-point field goal attempts.
This one will go dead.
That ended up being obviously a result which should be something good for, in particular, our younger players, and the fans back in New Zealand got to see a new generation of play.
But with today's games postponed, it remains to be seen how much more action footy fans will see this weekend. Brett McKay, ABC News.
And the Western Bulldogs remain on top of the AFL ladder after a dominant performance against Adelaide in Ballarat. But Geelong is hovering just under them on points differential following their 20-point win over a spirited North Melbourne. Georgie Tunney has more.
Fair
fair bit happening today with delayed fixtures and rescheduled bounces. And there seem to be two schools of thought with how to deal with it. Ignore it.
I'm pretty sure the players aren't that aware of it.
Or acknowledge it.
I do feel for those clubs. It's difficult.
4 clubs did complete their matches this afternoon, and in gusty Ballarat, Adelaide mastered the conditions first.
And kicks a second one for the Crows, who are using the breeze early.
But these young dogs have been conditioned to scrap, and one of their youngest pups started the fight back.
But they elected to neglect him.
Snaps it truly.
And kept the punches coming.
Hugo Hagan, well, that's something special. Gives it to Hannon. Deserves a goal here. Johannisen sprints to the line. Snaps the goal of the afternoon.
Western Bulldogs, too much size, too much speed, too much Bontempelli.
Bontempelli unloads. What a finish that is!
Crowds were allowed in Hobart for North's clash with the Cats, and all the pre-game chat may have been about putting on a good show for Tassie.
Davies Uniacke thought about the bounce, now pokes it over the top, heads for goal and got the bounce, got it to talk.
Despite an obvious disparity between ladder positions, the 18th ranked Roos were playing like heavyweights.
2 has the shot from 45, awesome, just what the Kangaroos needed.
Nick Larkey has been a highlight in an average season for North. His right foot is a real weapon.
And that is a spear. And the Kangaroos could go in at quarter time in front.
And they did. But that quickly changed as the Cats rebuilt their attack around their big names.
He's a craftsman. You just love to see him at work.
A scratchy performance from Geelong, but they'll keep their claws in second spot on the ladder, just behind the Bulldogs. Georgie Tunney, ABC News.
Staying with the AFL, Robert Harvey has put his best foot forward to be the next full-time coach of Collingwood, orchestrating a stunning 90 points to 45 win over West Coast at the MCG. Collingwood shocked the Eagles from the outset, keeping them goalless in the opening term while kicking the first 8 majors of the game. Now, despite having the same number of inside 50s as the Magpies, West Coast kicked just 2 goals up to three-quarter time. The celebrations were complete for Collingwood when Isaac Quaynor kicked his first career goal as they ran out 45-point winners. A national study has come up with a system for detecting a potentially fatal genetic disorder, which is estimated to affect about 100,000 Australians. It's hoped the research will ultimately save lives by reducing the number suffering from heart attacks.
Good girl. Exercise is more important than ever for Catherine Firth. The 71-year-old recently had a health scare.
I was amazed. Well, you don't have any symptoms, you see, with high cholesterol. And not only was mine high, but really, really high.
How are you today?
Good.
Her GP clinic in Perth was one of 15 across the country taking part in a study that used an online screening tool to identify patients at high risk of a potentially fatal genetic disorder.
Familial hypercholesterolemia, or FH for short, is a hereditary condition that is due to a defect in the receptors in the liver that takes away bad cholesterol out of our bloodstream.
Catherine's case was one of 147 picked up by the study. The diagnosis may well have saved her life.
If you don't treat it, less than 50% of the men will get to their 50th birthday without having a cardiac event or die, and 30% of females with the condition will do likewise by age 60.
Generations of Australians have FH, but only about 1 in 10 of the estimated 100,000 cases are diagnosed, partly due to poor awareness among GPs.
Hello.
This grandfather, Tim, his daughter Tanya and her 2 teenage boys all have FH.
If people don't know about it, they don't realise they're effectively cutting their life in half, or they can, because there is no symptoms. And if you don't know something's wrong, you can't fix it.
The family now believes that Tim's father, the boy's great-grandfather, must also have had the disorder because he died young from a heart condition.
He was in the Royal Air Force.
Researchers say it's crucial the condition is detected early in children to avoid plaque gradually clogging up the arteries.
It's not controllable by diet only. They will need some medications and monitoring, and you need families involved because it's a family diagnosis.
The electronic screening tool is being made freely available to GPs, so more people with FH can be on the front foot. Claire Moody, ABC News.
On the satellite, a front is generating rain across South Australia, Western Victoria and Tasmania. Troughs are bringing showers to parts of Western Australia and light showers to Eastern Victoria, southern parts of New South Wales. Onshore winds are directing the odd shower over northeast Queensland, and warm winds are filtering over Central Australia and New South Wales. Looking around the country for tomorrow next, Queensland will be mostly mild and sunny throughout, with clearing showers in the northwest. Cool and sunny for most parts of New South Wales, with showers easing in the southeast. Victoria can expect wet and cool conditions with fog, then sunshine for the northwest. Turning to Tasmania, showers and storms in the south, windy there on the highlands, and mostly sunny and cool in the north. Cool with showers for most parts of South Australia, sunny in the west. Western Australia can expect showers, winds and storms in the south, mostly sunny in the north, with very warm conditions in the northeast. And mostly warm and sunny across the Northern Territory with a late shower in the northwest. Looking ahead to Monday's forecast for our capital cities, mostly sunny in Brisbane, late showers in Sydney, a chance of rain for Canberra and Melbourne, mostly sunny there in Hobart, late showers expected for Adelaide, a chance of rain in Perth, and mostly sunny for Darwin with a top of 33. At 100 years old, many people would be thinking of slowing down. But for one WA man, he's picking up the pace and the drumsticks to celebrate this special milestone.
Bert Davies has tried to retire from drumming, but just keeps picking up the sticks.
This drum kit came, I think my mother paid £5 for it. My father was disgusted because he played piano.
He taught himself the drums aged 16, growing up on the south coast of Wales.
I was playing in the band, working in the steelworks, doing home guard, and very little time left.
But he was forced to put his musical hobby to one side in 1942 to help with the war effort. 7 decades later, he took them up again to join Fremantle jazz band, the 78s.
What, 5-7 bars, he gave me the thumbs up.
And now he's keeping time once again to mark his 100th birthday, although he's not as confident as he once was.
I couldn't do the strokes that I did in the just basic strokes now.
Joshua was part of the 78s when Bert joined.
He's kind of got an innate groove that you can't really teach.
Bert says his family are one of the things that have kept him going for so long, while his family maintain it's his independent spirit.
He just cooks his own meals still, he makes his whiskey and his beer.
And they say that will mean he's kicking on for years to come. Kian Burke, ABC News.
Well, that's the latest from ABC News. I'm Mariam Saab. Stay with us for ABC Regional News. That's up next.